everyone, welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and our weekly look back at the hot comics from 6 months ago. Today we're looking back at the hot comics from December 24th, 2021. So we are right at the end of 2021, and I'm recording this on June 23rd, 2021. I give you those dates so you know when this information is actually relevant. As always, we're looking back at the CBSI Hot Top 10 from that week and the Comic Tom Key Collector Hottest Trending Comics of the Week. We have 19 books between the two lists this week, so we got a lot of books to get through. And I can tell you this week was pretty ugly. It's been the general trend, but this maybe even more so than most. Yeah, it's been a rough year for the comic market, for these hot books holding. It continues this week, but let's get into these books and see if we can learn something individually about why these individual books went up or dropped, or what factors affected them. So, first up we have Gun Honey, number 3, the Jordan C2E2 variant. This is the homage to the Jordan 1986 Fleer card, I believe. This was a C2E2 variant that was limited to 300 in Chicago, so it was going for 115 plus on the secondary market as it came out from the con. Now it's still a 60 to 115 book raw. All the 9.8 sales were signature series when they were 2 to 215. But overall, this is definitely down, and I'll be back. Has not held as well as it was, but still held actually pretty well overall for a con variant. Next, we have Star Wars Insider 2022, the C2E2 Souvenir Edition. This was going for, this cover of The Mandalorian was going for $150 at release. Now it's a $30 to $60 book. This one has turned into a dumpster fire with that almost 70% decrease. Yeah, this one has not held. By this point, there's been several of these Insider and other things where he's been on the cover. So, yeah, not necessarily surprised to me that this one did not hold as well. We are still a ways out from season 3, so we will see if we get more of The Mandalorian. But, yeah, this book did not hold up at all, and not nearly as well as even that Gun Honey one did. Our next cover is a repeat from last week. It is Artie's Holiday Magic Special number 1. This is the Dan Parent variant that was limited to 50 of the Sexy Veronica cover. These are usually pretty popular. Last week when we talked about it, the week of release, it was an $80 to $90 book. Now, by this point, it was up to $125. Last week we talked about it being worth it because it had stayed in that $80 to $100 range. But at this point now, we're into the down, and I'll be back. The peak was actually higher than what it could sustain. Not a big surprise there. So if you got it on the first week, you did okay. If you wait till the second week when it was at its peak, you didn't do quite as well on this one. Next, another repeat offender from last week, and this is Miles Morales, Spider-Man number 33. The Matthias Manhanini, 1 in 25. Last week when we talked about it, it was just under double ratio. So even though it's 125, it was on the list, even though it was only doing like 40 to 50. By this point, it was 55 to 65. Last week, another one that was worth it, that now by this point was an I'll Be Back. It's down 30 to 50 now. So ratio to double, 9.8 going 75 to 125, which is pretty typical for a book that goes just over double ratio, the set between ratio and double. So this one pretty much followed the rules after it got to its actual peak. Next, we got Justice League Incarnate number 2, the Kyle Hotz 1 in 25, first appearance of the Batwoman Who Laughs. I don't know if anybody was asking for a Batwoman Who Laughs. I personally never cared that much for the Batman Who Laughs, but anyway, this was going for $50, so right at double ratio at release. Now it's a $1 to $30 book. Literally, there was a $1 sale plus shipping. 9.8 will only cost you $48. There was only one sale of those. This is an absolute dumpster fire on this one. Most of the sales are 10 to 15-ish. But yeah, this is an absolute dumpster fire. No real value here at all. With that, we're going to move into a little bit of comic buzz. First up, we have Solo, a Star Wars story, back from 2018. This is the first appearance of Kira. or Kira, or however you want to pronounce it, Han's girlfriend in the movie, but who's become a major part of Crimson Dawn and a couple of the Bounty Hunter War, a couple of the current Star Wars stories going on in the comics that are set between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Back then, raw copies were going for $60. 9.8 was going for $275 because of her role and being pretty prominent in the comics at that point. Now this one slid back $15 to $40. 9.8, two sales, one for $250, but the other for $135, and not a lot of movement here. Definitely has turned into a trap, which means it's probably not a bad time to try to get this book, just because it's more. There are a couple of first appearances here. So next we have The Good Asian #1, back on Tom's list for the second week in a row, even though we're still averaging around $4, but there was a high sale all the way up to $20, so it was starting to move in value a little bit by the second week. Same reason here that it was on it last week, and this was the Fortune magazine had named it the best comic book of 2021. So now it's a $5 to $10 book. 9.8s are $40 to $100, whereas the sale was set in $70s back then. So this has actually been pretty steady at this point. A little bit of an I'll be back because it is down a little bit from the peak prices for raw sales. But yeah, overall pretty steady. Another one that's got a lot of buzz for being a really good story that I need to get around to reading. Next, we're going to move into our one DC movie kind of book, and that is Infinite Crisis #5, a book that has been on and off this list numerous times over the 3 years that I have been doing this show. This hit the list this time because this is the first full appearance of Jaime Reyes as Blue Beetle and his first cover. And basically, we got the announcement back then that they weren't doing an HBO series, they were actually doing a movie that was going to be released wider, so it wasn't just an HBO Plus series. Caused this book to jump up to $50 raw. 9.8s were hitting $300. Now it's a $25 to $60 book. Raw, 9.8, $250 to $400. So overall, it's been pretty steady. A bit of an I'll be back because you could do a little better than the prices back then, but right in the same range that you would expect based on the averages and stuff they listed back then. Next, we have a Star Wars Tales of the Jedi #1. So this hit the list because there was a promotional item given to employees at Lucasfilm that included a bunch of logos of shows we knew were coming and the logo of Tales of the Jedi. So people were like, oh, we're going to get a Tales of the Jedi show. So people were jumping on this book. Not huge, but a huge increase in sales. Raw copies were up to 10, and 9.8 hit 160. And we are getting a Tales of the Jedi show, but not anything to do with this comic. It's actually characters we already know. They're just using this title to tell tales from different Jedi throughout history, and none of them have anything to do with the ones that were in the comic. Having said that, this book is still a $10 to $20 book raw. 9.8 still $1 to $150. So this has been actually pretty steady. A bit of an I'll be back. But yeah, this has been right in the same range it was back then. It's been very steady, despite the fact that the Tales of the Jedi animated series has nothing to do with the comic book. Next, we're going to move into a little Sony spec, as we talked a little bit about a few of these last week, as we'd gotten a teaser for Across the Spider-Verse, the new animated movies coming that now have already been delayed till next year. And this is Spider-Gwen #1 is our first book. First Spider-Gwen solo series. Obviously, she showed up in the trailer. Back then, this book was only jumped up to a $20 book. 9.8 hit 140. Now it's a $20 to $40 book raw. 9.8, 120 to 150. But most of the sales are on the raw side, so I did put this as up and worth it because, yeah, if you can get it for 20 right now, you're doing really good. For the most part, you're looking 25, 30, 35 to get a copy of this #1. The other book related to this was Amazing Spider-Man #10, a repeat from last week, first appearance of Spider-Punk. In this case, it was a repeat from last week. We're talking about the same prices, same reaction because it just flipped lists. So last week it was on CBSI list. This week it was on Tom's list. And yeah, it's still a $30 to $40 book raw, and $230 for 9.8 back then. Now it's a $30 to $60 book, $270 to $400 for 9.8. So another book that is up and worth it. And though, if you're keeping score, those will be the last two up books that we see this. They were the first two and the last two up books we'll see this week. Next, we have Sleepwalker #1, first appearance of Sleepwalker. And basically, we got confirmation that it was going to be included as a figure in part of the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness Legends line. They often include characters that don't have an appearance in those movies in these lines, and that's ended up being the case here, but that caused it to jump, people thinking we might get him. $10 to $15 for Raw, so not a huge jump. 9.8, so we're all the way up to $270 or $290. Now it's a $5 to $15 book. $175 to $200 for 9.8, so another down, and then I'll be back. This toy spec didn't pay off. Speaking of toy spec, the Build-A-Figure we got confirmation back then was Rentra, so the first appearance of Rentra, Doctor Strange number 81, made the list. Jumping all the way up to $60 to $80. People speculating we were going to get this Build-A-Figure. Surely was going to be in the movie. He was not. It's now so it's dropped from a $60 to $80 book to a $1 to $20 book. Another dumpster fire on this book. This was also the only book that made both lists back then. So was like the top book almost on both lists, and it is an absolute dumpster fire. If you're keeping track, that is our third dumpster fire of the week, which is a lot, and it's not the last one because we also have What If number 18, the first appearance of a evil version of Doctor Strange that people were speculating might be the version we saw in the movie. It was not really related. Back then, raw copies were up to $60 on this. This is now a $2 to $20 book, and another dumpster fire book that did not pay off. In addition to that version, next we have Doctor Strange number 46, the first appearance of Necromancer, another kind of evil Doctor Strange thing. This book was a $40 to $50 book back then with a 9.6 going for $320. Now it's a $5 to $20 book raw, 9.8 going for $1 to $180. I put this one as a trap, and you could argue this one was borderline dumpster fire as well. None of this Doctor Strange stuff that people were speaking on paid off from this week. Our last book from the Doctor Strange, at least, side of things was Vengeance number 1, also on the list for the second week in a row. First appearance of America Chavez, $300 raw on average, 9.8 up to $1,700. Now it's an $80 to $200 book raw, 9.8 going $750 to $900. This has turned into a trap as we moved away from the movie. We're going to get more of America Chavez. I thought the actress did a good job, but yeah, this has still turned into a trap. 3 books to go. First 2 are related to Hawkeye. We got Astonishing Tales number 6, the first appearance of Bobby Morris. We got the reveal of who the watch belonged to. We know we also had Bobby in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series, but that's not really MCU canon, I guess, at this point. But anyway, people were chasing this based on her reveal. Seemed like you were pretty late if you're chasing it at this point. Raw copies were 74, 9.2 went for 500. Now a raw copy will cost you 15 to 50, and there's been no high grade slab sales recently. So this one also turned into a trap. Nothing really going on here. Yeah, we got a reveal that she was an agent, but no confirmation that she was Mockingbird. Next, we have Hawkeye and Mockingbird number 1. Same spec going on here, and this is just kind of their first duo series, I guess, not solo series. Back then, raw copies were up to $15 to $20 with a huge increase in sales. Now, there are no sales. No, literally, I couldn't find any sales on eBay in the last 3 months for this book. So it's a trap. You can argue it's a dumpster fire because you can't get rid of it, but based on the original value of only 15 to 20, I did say trap. But yeah, no interest here, even though listings are for $3, $5 plus shipping. Doesn't matter, people aren't interested. Last book of the week is a big book, and this is Amazing Spider-Man number 9, first appearance of Electro. This, of course, had to do with No Way Home. Back then, they gave another one of those weird numbers for raw sale, like an average sale. They just said average sale like $6,000 or something. I didn't even put it on here because they didn't say raw, and it makes no sense given where some of the sales, the other information they gave. So I just kind of ignored that. But 5.0 they listed for 2,600, a 1.0 500. Couldn't find any 1.0 sales, but low grade raw copies are 2 to 500 right now. A 5.5 is 15 to 2,000. So another book that is down, and it'll all be back. So the dog has just woken up, but we're wrapping this up. So another list, 14 of the 19 books have dropped in value. Definitely a good time to be patient right now and look for bargains across the comic market, even on big books. I want to thank you guys for watching, and we will catch you next time.